Welcome, the new video. In this recap, in South Korea, young Kim is heading to his last day of work at a company. Throughout his life, he was harassed in high school and went through several jobs, but never managed to find a steady job. The only thing that brightened his days was a web novel called 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse. The story chronicled the adventures of Yu, a young warrior who became humanity's only hope against the domination of celestial beings known as constellations. The story lasted for many years, and over time, the audience stopped following it, except for Kim. However, in the final chapter, Yu became the sole survivor of an apocalyptic event that resulted in the demise of his friends and all of humanity. Disappointed with this ending, Kim sends a message to the author, expressing his outrage. After leaving work, he takes the subway and runs into Sang, one of his coworkers, and during their conversation, he receives a notification on his cell phone. Kim then sees a message written by a user named TSL123, claiming to be the author of the web novel. He thanks Kim for the message and challenges him to rewrite the story and create his own ending. This message confuses Kim, and suddenly, the train stops in the middle of the track. Immediately afterwards, a message plays on the communicator, talking about free maintenance on planetary system 8612, something the young man recognizes as an excerpt from the web novel. As if that weren't strange enough, a hologram-shaped imp appears and introduces himself as Bai Yun. One of the passengers thinks it's all a joke and tells the train to move on, but the imp becomes enraged and shoots a ray from his eyes, piercing the man's head. General confusion ensues in the subway, but Bai Yun demands everyone's attention. He warns that from that moment on, passengers will be tested in different scenarios, where they must overcome challenges to have a chance at survival. The creature then starts the first scenario, where the goal is to eliminate a living being within 10 minutes. Those who fail to do so will be eliminated instantly, and then a holographic counter appears in the middle of the car, starting the challenge. In desperation, the passengers begin to attack each other, and Kim realizes that the same thing happened in the web novel. In addition, when he looks at the other car, he comes across Yu, the hero of the story, who just walks away, leaving people to fight each other. There is no doubt that everyone is inside the web novel, and soon after, a huge creature, the ichthyosaur, emerges from the sea and collides with the train. Amidst this confusion, Kim tries to remember how Yu managed to get through the scenario without eliminating other people. Suddenly, he sees a boy named Gil, who drops his ant farm. Kim then has an idea, and when he crushes one of the ants, the hologram announces that he was the first to pass through the scenario. Everyone is surprised and asks how he did it, with Kim showing them the ant farm and saying that all they have to do is eliminate the ants to pass the scenario. Among the group is Mr. Khan, Kim's former boss, who was also on the subway. The man then takes the farm and offers to hand out the insects, but there aren't enough for everyone, and a new fight breaks out. To make matters worse, Kim sees a man kicking a poor lady and tries to stop him, saying that he has saved 2 more ants that they can use. The guy, who turns out to be Nam, one of Yu's companions in the story, knocks him to the ground and says he's going to go through the scenario his way. Although he doesn't know how to fight, Kim discovers that, just like in the web novel, he earns coins for each challenge he wins, and can use them to improve his attributes. He then uses the coins he has earned to increase his strength level, and with a single blow, sends the man flying. Despite this, Nam is more skilled and begins to beat Kim, knocking him to the ground. As he gets up, the young man sees a jar fall from the nursery, containing several ant eggs. Since they are also living beings, Kim destroys them all, earning even more coins and improving his endurance and agility. He then challenges Nam to a second round, and in addition to dodging his blows, Kim counterattacks and leaves his opponent on the ground. Seeing that he is no match for him, Nam surrenders and begs him to give him one of the ants. Instead, Kim helps the lady who is lying on the ground and places an ant in her hand so she can crush it. Finally, the counter is reset to 0 and the challenge ends, with all those who did not meet the goal being eliminated, including Nam. Unfortunately, the woman lying on the floor was unable to eliminate the ant in time and loses her life in Kim's arms. With the challenge over, only 17 people survived. Bai Yun then appears and congratulates the survivors, saying that now they can count on the support of the constellations. In addition, they need to get off the train and move on to the next scenario as quickly as possible, as the ichthyosaur attacks again and begins to pull the car into the water. Before it's too late, Kim asks Lee for help opening the gates, and everyone leaves the car, crossing the bridge on foot. However, the ichthyosaur appears again and uses its body to destroy part of the bridge, preventing the group from crossing it. As if that weren't bad enough, Bai Yun decides to make the game more interesting and reanimates the lifeless passengers, sending them to attack the group. Sang then decides to ask for the support of the constellations and activates a new ability, managing to create threads from his arms, thus creating a makeshift bridge. She tells everyone to run away, but when she looks back, Kim sees Yu, who with a stroke of his sword, pushes away all the reanimated bodies. The hero then confronts the young man, saying that he seems to know a lot about the challenges and demands to know the truth. Fearing that he will not believe his words, Kim simply says that he has the special ability of prophecy. This power allows him to know what will happen in the future, and he tells Yu to follow him to Chunryuro Station, as he is destined to face the creature that inhabits the place, the fire dragon. In the web novel, Yu's companions sacrificed themselves to defeat the creature, because if the hero is eliminated, all of humanity will be extinguished. Kim, however, keeps this information a secret, but Yu realizes that the young man is lying and puts him on the edge of the bridge, giving him one last chance to tell the truth. Desperate, Kim insists that he is there to help him, but Yu lets him go anyway, leaving the young man to be devoured by the ichthyosaur. This seems to be the end, but instead, Kim ends up in the monster's stomach, which turns out to be a secret setting. Soon after, Bai Yun appears and announces that for this mission, the young man must eliminate the creature. Kim then comes up with a plan and proposes a deal with Bai Yun, saying that he knows everything about the game and can attract more viewers to watch the challenge. Seeing a chance to please the constellations and get an even higher position, the little devil accepts and signs a contract with Kim. With everything settled, the young man needs to hurry, as the walls of the ichthyosaur's stomach begin to expel gastric juice. Kim then opens the game's online store and, using his coins, buys several stakes and uses them to plug the acid ducts. He spends the night doing this until he finally manages to plug the last duct, causing the ichthyosaur to be eliminated by its own acid. Thanks to this, Kim receives many reward coins, and as soon as the acid dissipates, he inspects the monster's body and finds its core. As in the story, this item is very valuable, and Kim gives it to Bai Yun so that he can offer it at the virtual auction in exchange for another relic, the Ether of Faith. All this knowledge of the game surprises the little devil, and he agrees to do so, as well as giving Kim the beginner's kit. With that, the young man takes a mask to breathe underwater and leaves the monster, swimming through the sea until he reaches the shore. After that, he goes to a convenience store and gets something to eat, when he sees a group of lifeless young people at the location. However, one of them, named Young, is still alive, and Kim rushes to take her to Chunryuro Station, when suddenly, a huge mantis appears in the city. Kim then runs as fast as he can to the station and manages to escape the monster, only to encounter a gang led by Pan. The guy is surprised to see Young alive and orders her to leave the station, but Kim stands in front of her to protect her. The gang then sets out to attack him, but the young man uses his coins to further improve his attributes and defeats the group without difficulty. After the fight, Jung, the real leader of the gang, orders his men to retreat and asks Kim and Young to join his group of survivors. Kim accepts, and soon after, he reunites with his friends, who manage to survive. While Sang takes care of the wounded, Gil reveals his special ability to communicate with insects using his fingers. The group talks about what happened until Jung reappears and congratulates Kim for surviving so far. He then asks the young man to share some of his coins, as they will help the other subway survivors to stay there. Upon hearing this, Kim remembers that Jung is another character from the web novel, who sold his humanity to the constellations to become a monster. Knowing his real intentions, the young man refuses to hand over the coins and instead agrees to participate in the next scenario, located on the subway tracks. If he wins, the coins will be given to the survivors, and Jung accepts the deal, as his goal is to steal Kim's coins for himself. What he doesn't know is that the young man has other plans, and in addition to preparing improvised weapons, he calls on the others to help in the scenario. The group then follows the tracks until they reach a completely dark section. Gil then uses his ability, and when he raises his fingers, several fireflies appear and begin to light up the tunnel. However, they warn the boy that monsters are quickly approaching the location. Seconds later, a group of creatures advances toward Kim and his friends, with everyone pulling out their weapons to defend themselves. Thanks to teamwork, they manage to eliminate the monsters, but one of them manages to escape and captures Sang. Kim and the others rush to save her until they reach an open area, where the objective of the scenario is revealed. They must eliminate all the monsters in the area, one of which is the Rat King, a creature covered in tentacles. To save his friend, Kim is the first to challenge the monster, which manages to repel his attacks without any difficulty. Lee is the second to enter the battle, and by dodging the tentacles, he manages to hit the creature with his baseball bat. The blow causes the monster to retreat, and it summons the illusory prison, a technique that creates multiple arms to chase its victims. Kim helps Gil and Young dodge the attack, but Lee is captured by the arms and begins to have visions of his past. The images show the moment when he was in the army, and due to a careless mistake, his best friend was eliminated by a grenade. This memory begins to torment him, and if nothing is done, his mind will be destroyed. Kim then buys another item, the White Star, and equips it on his weapon, giving him the ability to cause critical damage. With this new power, the young man leaps toward the monster and eliminates it with a fatal blow, saving Lee's life. Despite this, the challenge is not over, as there is still one monster left to defeat at the station. Kim knows exactly who it is and calls the group back to the station. But first they find a place with treasure chests. Upon opening them, they receive several special items. When Kim opens his chest, he receives a sword called Shattered Faith. Although its blade is broken, Kim knows that it is the most powerful weapon in the game, and he can use the Ether of Faith to rebuild it. He then calls the group to move on, but Young confronts him, asking how Kim knows so much about the challenges. Once again, he tries to cover it up, saying that his special ability is the gift of prophecy. Kim then reveals that in order to win the game, they must help you, the hero of the story, reach the final challenge, Scenario 99. However, at the station, there is a fire dragon, and if you faces it alone, he will be eliminated, taking all of humanity with him. For this reason, they need to return to the station and help him in the fight, but first, they need to complete the current challenge to clear the way. Sang is confused, since they destroyed the Rat King, but Kim warns that the last monster is at the station. Young quickly understands who he is talking about and returns to the survivor's location, where she encounters Pan. Without hesitation, she eliminates him, and it is revealed that, under Jung's orders, Pan sent his henchmen to the streets to eliminate people and steal their coins. Days earlier, Young and her friends received the same order, but when they refused, Pan and his gang eliminated them. Luckily, Young was saved by Kim, and now she has the chance to take revenge on Pan, as well as Jung, who reveals himself to be the last monster in the challenge. With his identity revealed, Jung orders his henchmen to finish off the group, but Young advances alone and eliminates them with her new swords. As soon as the gang is exterminated, the villain himself appears to face her, revealing his monstrous arm. With it, Jung gains superhuman strength, but Young is not intimidated, and with her agility, she attacks the madman and pushes him onto the subway tracks. About to deliver the final blow, Jung manages to break free and runs at full speed toward the tracks, with Young and the others following behind him. Unfortunately for the group, Jung manages to cross the barrier of the scenario, with Kim and the others unable to cross. Worst of all, there are 20 seconds left until the end of the scenario, and since they haven't destroyed the last monster, everyone will be eliminated. However, a gunshot is heard from the other side of the tunnel, and Jung is shot in the head. Thanks to this, the challenge is cancelled, and the group manages to survive, discovering that the shot was fired by Jae-hee, a young sniper wearing a school uniform. Kim remembers the character in the web novel, who had to eliminate her own friend and learn to survive alone in the apocalyptic world. The girl also has the ability of super speed, and when she finds the group, she warns them that the next scenario will be even more difficult. This soon proves to be true when the challenge of the day is announced, with more monsters coming to the station through a portal. The only way to get past them is to stay in the green areas of the station, and in a few seconds, the survivors begin to fight for a safe place. Kim remembers this part of the story and realizes that the only way to get through the scenario is to fight for a place in the green areas. However, Young and the others refuse to eliminate people to escape the monsters, and they all set out in search of hidden green areas. The group then splits up, searching for safe areas around the train tracks, while more monsters emerge through portals. Finally, Young, Lee, and Sang find 3 green areas on the walls, and when they touch them, the trio is protected from the creatures. At the same time, Kim takes Gil through the station until he finds another wall with 2 safe areas, but one of them is occupied by Yu. The man challenges him, saying that the only way Kim can save himself is by leaving the boy behind, but instead, the young man gives his place to Gil and looks for another safe area. Unfortunately, the monsters begin to surround him, and with his sword still broken, Kim tries to resist but is knocked down. About to be devoured, Kim loses consciousness and begins to remember the past, when he fought his best friend under the orders of the school troublemakers. Kim was the winner, but the next day, he found out that his friend didn't survive, which made him carry a heavy burden of guilt for the rest of his life. Amid these memories, Yu invades the young man's mind and says that, like him, he was once an idealist, seeking to save everyone, especially his friends. However, seeing how selfish humanity is and how it fights for survival, he gave up his ideals and now fights only for himself. The conversation is soon interrupted when Kim wakes up in a room at the station, with his friends nearby. Sang reveals that everyone has joined forces to fight the monsters and managed to save Kim. Realizing that his companions sacrificed themselves to give him a chance, the young man realizes that Yu is wrong and continues to maintain his goal of saving people and giving the story a new ending. However, more problems arise when another little devil appears and announces changes to the scenario. This time, instead of random places, the station will have only one green area, and the survivors will have to fight for it until only one remains. Seeing that the situation has become even more critical, Kim calls for Bai Yun and asks for his help. The little devil says he is satisfied with the young man, as his performance in the challenges has generated several donations sent by the constellations so that he can continue with the game. Upon learning this, Kim asks Bai Yun to withdraw all donations and goes in search of the safe zone, finding it under a man named Gong. During the previous challenge, the old man and his gang reserved part of the safe zones, giving space only to those who had coins to exchange. However, now that the only safe area is with him, all the survivors gathered to take his place. Nevertheless, Kim goes to the guy and says that in exchange for his services, he will pay him up to 100,000 coins. Gong doubts the guy, but accepts the deal, and as soon as Bai Yun transfers the donations, Kim pays the old man. Soon after, the safe area moves to the floor where Kim is, and without thinking twice, the young man tries to destroy the green area with his sword. Everyone is confused by Kim's attitude and begins to crowd around him to try to stop him. Far away, Jae-hee has her gun pointed, about to shoot Kim to clear the safe zone, but she soon understands the young man's intentions and instead shoots at the train tracks. This causes the bullet to ricochet to the ground, with the shot completely destroying the safe zone. Gong confronts him, asking why Kim did that, and the young man replies that because of the safe zones, people fight each other instead of helping each other to fight the monsters. Now that there is nowhere left to run, the survivors must work as a team to overcome this challenge. Finally, Kim demands that Gong keep his word and orders him to protect the survivors no matter what, as a new monster portal is opening. The old man obeys, and then he activates a mechanism, causing a tank to emerge from under the train tracks. The machine is equipped with various weapons, and Gong takes the tank to the portal, firing at all the creatures that try to cross it. A battle begins at the station, with the survivors fighting together for a chance to survive. Shortly after, Yu also appears on the scene, at the same time that the ultimate challenge, the fire dragon, emerges from the earth to eliminate everyone. Seeing that the monster has arrived, Kim runs to Yu and asks to help him in the battle against the dragon. However, the arrogant swordsman tells Kim to stay away and sets off alone to face the monster, hitting it with shots and quick cuts from his blade. The creature appears to have been defeated, but the constellations order that the difficulty level of the challenge be raised once again. As a result, the train station begins to be destroyed, and the dragon undergoes a transformation, becoming an even more powerful creature. Yu then tries to attack it again, but the dragon's tough skin shatters his sword. Despite this, the swordsman summons another weapon and advances toward the monster, but it holds him in the air, takes his sword, and pierces Yu with its own blade. This blow is not enough to defeat the hero, who continues to conjure more weapons to defeat his opponent. Seeing that Yu will be eliminated if nothing is done, Kim orders Sang to save him, and with her ropes, she pulls the hero away and takes him far from there. With Yu safe, Kim heads towards the monster, but his broken sword is not strong enough, and his blows cause no damage. The dragon decides to eliminate him with a burst of fire, and the young man blocks the attack with his sword, but he will not resist for long. Suddenly, the giant mantis appears at the station, controlled by Gil, who orders the huge insect to protect Kim. However, the effort is too much for the boy, who begins to bleed, and the giant mantis proves to be an inferior opponent for the dreaded dragon. With Gil growing weaker, Lee decides to intervene in the fight, and using his gauntlet, he manages to protect the mantis and activates a new ability. Now, Lee is able to create an impenetrable barrier, and uses it to push the dragon away from the giant insect. The group then joins forces against the monster, with Sang using his ropes to create a clear path to the dragon. Kim then runs along the ropes until he reaches the villain, and with his sword in hand, he tries to strike the dragon's chest, where it protects its core. At the same time, Jae-hee aims her weapon in the same direction and hits the core with a well-aimed shot. Despite their joint effort, the dragon manages to break free and the protection around the core is quickly rebuilt. The effort seems to have been in vain, but Yu reappears, and combining all his powers, he manages to pierce the dragon's core. However, the creature's flames begin to spread, destroying Yu's body. As stated in the web novel, the hero's destruction causes a new effect, resulting in the end of all living beings. Kim believes that everything is over, but suddenly, he receives a notification informing him of the exchange of the ichthyosaur's core for the ether of faith. The user who made the exchange is TLS-123, the same one who sent the message on the cell phone, claiming to be the author of the story. Kim then orders Bai Yun to deliver the ether of faith to him, and with this item, he finally manages to rebuild the broken blade and sets out to deliver the final blow to the fire dragon. Before disappearing, the friends join forces to trap the monster, and with a leap, Kim reaches the dragon and pierces its core with his sword. The monster is finally defeated, and as a reward for victory, Kim receives a special item called the Peaceful King. With this ability, he can resurrect a person, and Kim decides to bring Yu back to life. Thanks to this, humanity is saved, and Yu thanks the young man, saying that he has finally regained his faith in people. After this victory, Kim reunites with his friends and is willing to rewrite the ending of the story and create a better future. However, from the train tracks, Lord Khan appears, announcing that a new threat is approaching. Seconds later, the sound of a train approaches the station, and Kim knows what that means. The challenge is not over yet, and the young man, alongside his friends, will have more scenarios to face before the end of the game. Subscribe for more recap videos.